Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about employment in the US. And I know this is like #1 question among any students who are coming to the US to get their education. They're like, would I be able to work? Would I be able to get a job after I graduate? What happens with my student visa? Like all of those questions that I'm getting from you, I'm going to try and answer them today. If you have any additional questions, please don't forget to ask them in comments below. And one thing to remember, I'm not an immigration attorney. I'm just talking about things based on my own experience, based on students' stories, based on my own story of getting a job in the US. So if you're interested, continue watching this video. Okay, first thing to remember, if you're a student coming to the US on a student visa and taking a course at a university or college, you have a right to work on campus 20 hours a week. And it's only on campus, right? So what are the campus jobs? You can work in a cafeteria, you can work in a library, you can do all kinds of things on campus. The average pay rate is $10 to $15. And if you can do maximum of 20 hours a week, it means that the maximum you can do in terms of money is like $200, $250 a week, which is unfortunately not enough to cover your tuition fees. So that would be enough to cover your living expenses, maybe renting a room, maybe covering some of your food and travel, but not really covering everything. So this is #1 thing to remember. Yes, you can work off campus, but only if you get a permit. A lot of programs actually want you to intern in companies outside the university's campus, but your job has to be connected with whatever you're studying. So if you're doing master's in marketing, this is your second trimester, and you just found a company who wants to employ you for, again, only 20 hours a week. You come to your international office in the university and you show them the offer letter and you tell them this job is connected with your subject. You cannot just go to Starbucks and work as a barista, only if the Starbucks is on campus. But in all other cases, you need to prove that this job is connected to whatever you're studying. And if it is, you get a CPT, which is an approval to work off campus, which is again great because the pay rate can be a little higher. But please remember that you come to the US to study, not to work. Like, study is your #1 goal. So please take care of your GPA, attend all of the lectures and all of the seminars. Because if you study well and you graduate, you're gonna get an OPT. I'm gonna talk about it in a minute. One quick disclaimer. Sometimes people are like, oh Marina, but there is assistantship, which is also work on campus, because you can work as a lecturer, you can work as an administrative assistant. And if you get an assistantship, the university covers the total cost. Sometimes it's the total cost of your tuition and they give you a stipend. Sometimes it's like half of your tuition, which is not even close to like getting $15 an hour. Yes, this is a completely different thing. This is a type of financial aid, and I'm talking about it in my other videos. So assistantship is, yes, this is work on campus, but this is financial aid. It's not awarded to everyone. It's only awarded to those who are eligible, who have good results, and who have proven that they're strong academically. OPT. This is your chance to get work experience in the US after you graduate. What happens? So imagine you just graduated, you've done masters, you've done bachelors. You're getting either 1 or 3 years of OPT, which means you can work in the US from 1 to 3 years. The length of your OPT really depends on what you study. So there are so-called STEM subjects, scientific, like science, technology, engineering, medicine, maths, IT, like all of those subjects are STEM subjects. And if your university decides that your master's in IT, as probably 99% STEM masters, then that means that you're gonna get a 3-year work permit after you graduate. If you're doing masters in economics, you're doing masters in psychology, masters in painting or whatever, acting, this is not a STEM subject. Sometimes, in rare cases, masters in economics is a STEM subject if there is a lot of like analytics and stuff, but this is something to ask during the admissions process, like, is it a STEM subject? What's the OPT that I'm getting after graduation? But normally it's a 1-year OPT. What happens? You graduate, you find a job that's related to the subject that you've studied. And this is a chance for you to get work experience in the US, and this is what government does to support you as a student, to get you this real life experience in America. And later, some people stay. Again, here, the best thing to do is to talk to an immigration attorney. Some of the stories that I can share with you. Story number one is my story. As you know, I haven't graduated. I was just accepted with full financial aid, but then I got some funding. Our company got funding from a local VC in Silicon Valley. And we started a company, and my own company sponsored my O1 visa. An O1 visa is an extraordinary ability visa for foreign entrepreneurs, foreign specialists, foreign talented workers. And I got it. And after that, I got an EB1, which is also a green card for extraordinary ability people. So this is the way number one. I interact with a lot of graduates from Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, and even like smaller universities that are not really entrepreneurial. I see a lot of people starting their own companies, getting some local funding while they're still studying, and then applying for the O1 visa. Also, if you're joining a startup as a co-founder and that startup shows some results, like again, funding is a good result, some press, then you can apply for the O1. And I would say among all of the visas, I've talked to a lot of lawyers when I was in the same process as you guys. I talked to some lawyers and they were like, H1B, I'm going to talk about it later. H1B is tough, L1 is tough, that visa is tough, that was tough. O1 is like, if you have some press, if you manage to get some results, this is like your number one choice. Something to discuss with a lawyer. Some lawyers give free consultations, some would charge you like $250 per hour. Just do your research, do forums, do stuff, and find somebody to work with. And honestly, I think I've talked to maybe 7 lawyers before I found mine, because every single lawyer told me I had no chances. Option number 2 is the H1B visa. This is actually like the mainstream visa for US university graduates. So what happens, you can apply every April, just once a year. So you have to be a really good specialist, because imagine what happens, you apply in April and you can only start working in October, and there are not a lot of companies that are willing to wait for you that long. So what I recommend is getting an internship in a company while you study, in a company that sponsors H1B visas. And please be careful, the recent news that I've heard, but please don't quote me on that, but I think if Facebook has stopped sponsoring the visas, what they do, they hire you to their Irish office, and then they do the transfer, they do the L1 visa. I'm going to talk about it a little later. So yeah, tricky thing. So just make sure the company does H1Bs. And so you work for them for a year. You've done your internship, you're still on your OPT, and this is a good time to talk to your manager and tell him, hey, I actually wanted to stay in your company and I need to apply for a visa. Do you guys sponsor H1B? And I hope the answer is yes, because then there's the whole preparation process. And then in April, when you apply, listen to this. They don't consider every single application at the immigration office of the US. There's a lottery. So there are some quotas. The general quota, if you don't have masters from the US, is like 65,000. And on average, 200,000 people apply. So there's like, on average, 30% that an application would be considered. And after it's considered, they're going to decide whether to approve it or not. And your employer in the US need to prove that they were not able to find a worker who already has a US work permit. So it's a complicated process. Again, it's going to be your employer, your lawyer, and yourself. But if you have masters from the US, and if it's from one of the top universities, your chances are slightly, well, I would say a lot better. One of the Harvard graduates recently shared with me that it's 80% actually. If you're like Harvard MBA graduate and you're applying for an H1B, there's like 80% that you're gonna get it. And still he's applying for the O1. So again, I'm just sharing rumors. This is something to remember. Like if you've only done your bachelor's in the US, your chances of getting H1B are a little lower than if you had gotten master's in the US, and MBA is the same as master's. So bear that in mind. If you're doing your PhD, the typical visa is O1. A lot of universities sponsor O1 visa. If you've done your research, if you want to stay as a professor, they're going to use your publications to file. So this is a pretty common and easy case, I would say. I know a lot of researchers who stayed on O1 as well as entrepreneurs. And another visa that I mentioned, L1, this is basically management transfer. So for example, you're working for Facebook in the US on your OPT, and then you're like, oh my God, guys, I want to stay in Facebook. And they're like, I'm sorry, we don't sponsor visas anymore. We're gonna put you into our Irish office for a couple of years, see how you perform, and then we're gonna do L1. A management transfer from one office to another. This is how it works. But again, talk to your employer. I made an interview with Luba. You can Google how to get a job in Silicon Valley. She didn't even graduate from an American university. She graduated from a Canadian university. She came to Silicon Valley to Airbnb to do her internship, and then she applied for a full-time job and they sponsored her visa. So there are a lot of ways. Again, I think, so my perceptions, it's my perception to everything in this life. If you really want something, you're gonna find ways, because there are ways. There are thousands of people who are staying in the US, and I know there's like, the current administration doesn't really want people to come to the US. I know that companies want employees. I know that there's shortage of skills in Silicon Valley. I know that people are looking for talents all the time. I know that VC funds are looking for talented startups. So whenever you're here in the US, like day one, I would start figuring out your strategy, what you're gonna do after you graduate. I would talk to other people. I would listen to success stories. I would talk to lawyers. I would just, you know, be hands-on everything. Because when I came to the 500 startup program on my tourist visa, from day one, I started inquiring like, how'd you guys stay? Because I just registered my company in the US and all of my bank accounts are here and my investors are here. Like, I don't want to go back to Russia and do everything remotely. I really want to stay here. So, and I guess some of you would have the same thoughts. Oh, I got my education here. If you do your bachelor's here and then your master's, you lived like a third of your life in the US, and you probably want to get a job here as well. So these are my 5 cents on the work visa situation after you graduate from an American university. Questions below, I'll try to answer some of them if I know the answer. Talk to lawyers, talk to other people, go to forums, research. Like, the more time you dedicate, the better it is for your process, for your outcome, because everything depends on you. And I know you're gonna make it. If you want it, you'll be here. Like, you're gonna reach everything in your life that you want. So thank you so much for watching this video up to the very end. I'm gonna go back to enjoying my weekend in Yosemite, and I will see you very soon in the next videos. And I hope you're enjoying my new schedule, guys, for the next couple of 3 weeks, because I really want to like pour all of that admissions information on you as soon as possible. Oh my God, I almost forgot to tell you one very important thing. DV lottery, the green card lottery, play it. Please start playing it. Like, if your goal is to get a job in the US, start playing it now. The chances are really low, like 1%, depending on where you're from, but it ranges from like 0.1 to 2%. But I know a lot of people win. Actually, I'm here in this cottage in Yosemite with a guy whose wife won a green card lottery when she was still at a university, and they were studying in Bulgaria, and they won it and they came here, and now they live in California. She does email marketing, he does filmmaking. So chances are low, but there are chances. So start playing now. The next DV lottery is October 2019. Don't miss it. Okay, that was it. Bye.